Ooby-doo! It's everyone's favorite boomer and vintage lens enthusiast. And I did a review of this lens. This is the Zoom Nikkor 28-50 3.5 constant aperture. And what I did, you could see that video, it's a previous video. I went to a light spectacular in this town. They have their green and they put all Christmas lights up. I guess you could say the word Christmas. And it's Yule time, you know, somewhat before Christmas and somewhat after New Year. So what do you think? The day I go there, it's 10 degrees out. So I noticed this thing wide open at 3.5 seemed to have a significant amount of coma and flare around bright point-like objects like Christmas lights. And of course, as we know, coma is determined by the brightness of the light, whether it's in focus or out of focus, and its position, across the field of view, the edges being worse. And it looked pretty coma on these point lights. Now, Christmas lights, they aren't points. They're usually like little cartouches. They're little capsules, and but they don't have butterfly wings, which is a sure sign of flare and coma, which this thing exhibited. Now, if we go into the menu real quick, let's go in the menu real quick. They have this thing called auto distortion control, which I had off. Diffraction compensation I had on. Vignette control I had on low. Well, this stuff, what we want to have on. High ISO noise reduction I had on low. Long exposure noise reduction I had on. But I guess I would have to shut the vignette control off. The diffraction compensation I would have to shut off. And anything else that may affect the quality of the image. Now, does it only work with Nikon lenses that have an identity chip that tells the camera what lens is on it, or does it work on any lens? I don't know. I have to look into that and find out. So what I did was I did another photo shoot like a couple of days later, since I had a few days off from work. So I went to the park. And I used a slower shutter speed, and I stopped it down to normal apertures, f11 and 16. And I used the ISO of maybe 400, 800. And then I just went to the park and I blasted away on some ice and some scenery and some close-ups. And then these samples are following. And you could say, well, is this a crappy lens or is it a decent lens? Actually, I like the way this thing took pictures. And even on those pictures I took of the Yule light spectacular, even though some of the lights may exhibit some coma and flare, the butterfly type, if there's an extended image next to it, it just seemed a little soft, but it wasn't horrible. So, I was really torture testing it with the point lights of the Christmas lights. Now, you got to remember, they stopped making this in the 80s or something. And but for a walking around lens, it's a nice zoom ratio. Well, 28 is a little long for my liking, but 28-50, and the fact that it had constant aperture seemed like a deal to me. So let's do this. Let's put it on wide open. Let's look at this aperture. Can you see that aperture? It looks to me, this is at 50 millimeters, right? 50 millimeters, it seems to be wide open. But as I go down, that aperture looks like it closes a little bit. So maybe this wasn't a true constant aperture. What it was, it varies, but they have a cam mechanism in here to compensate for that. Maybe it was at 2.8 at 28 millimeters, and they just have it stopped down to 3.5. Did it look better at 3.5 wide open than 50 millimeters? Well, that's for you to decide. Now, like I said, that was the previous video. This video was more daylight, normal taking of picture stuff. And I don't want to give this lens a bad rap, because it has some coma wide open. So you check it out, you decide. But One in excellent condition, I don't know, 120 bucks, but there's inflation and deflation and all those other stuff, so who knows how much they cost or whether they're available or not. But it's not a lens I'm going to get rid of. I'm going to use this lens, definitely. Absolutely, without a doubt. Well, it's got dust on it because I had the lens cap in my pocket, and now the dust fell off the lens cap and on my lens. So yeah, it's a dust cap. It collects dust. So a good trick is, when you're going to put your camera away, is blow the lens off and blow your dust cap off too. And of course, I used the venerable Z50, which I think is one of the best mirrorless cameras out there. It's small, it's lightweight, it's relatively cheap if you get one used in excellent condition. So I would highly recommend it, without a doubt. When I took these pictures that we're looking at, it was like 25 degrees Fahrenheit. As opposed to the first time I used the lens wide open in the dark, it was 0 degrees. I'm thinking there could be differential expansion between the glass and the metal. This is all metal old school lens, and I wonder if that has anything to do with it. Of course, it was brighter out. I was able to stop down to f8, 11, and 16 and use a faster shutter speed and slower ISO, so it had that going for it too. As usual, I did a 16:9 full frame crop of a 3:2 sensor, right? And then I resized it to 1920 by 1080. And then I went back to the full frame again, the 20 megapixel full frame, and I did a 1920 by 1080 crop out of the corner. So you can see, what are the corners doing? The centers are always going to look good, but the corners is really, you really want to see what's happening. And this lens performs very admirably, I believe. And it's really a nice lens. If you want to get into vintage lens, the Zoom Nikkor 28 to 50 millimeter fixed aperture f3.5 is the way to go. No doubt about it. Of course, it's all manual. You got to think about what you're doing. So it's got that going for it. And you always have to confirm the focus, which is easy to do. In a mirrorless camera, they have their live view zoom magnification, so you can verify the focus, tweak it in as good as you want. So I like this lens. There's no doubt about it. It's better than most, and it's rugged, and it's well made. I didn't use a lens hood. I left it home. I forgot about it. I had one of those collapsible rubber ones. I forgot about it. So I didn't shoot into the sun maybe once or twice, and it did a pretty good job even under those. And I just like, it has some really good detail. It's got real nice even color. What can I say about it? It's an old lens, but if you're into that vintage stuff, go for it. This is great. Well, I guess I'll have to do another shoot with this lens when it's much warmer out, like in the 50s, 60s, or 70s, so we could eliminate any temperature variations that might happen to this lens. It's got this really great even contrast that, it just speaks to me somehow. Of course, I adjust it. In the camera, I adjust the colors. In the camera, I boost the sharpness, but I do that for all my lenses. But did I do post-processing? Oh, I cropped and resized. I might have adjusted the highlights, but that's it. I didn't do any post-processing of sharpness or any heavy-duty color shifts or anything. The camera pretty much nailed the correct-looking colors to me. I could have boosted the colors, and I probably could have boosted the contrast, but I wanted to leave it pretty much unprocessed. And of course, 25 degrees, there's lots of ice still around from when it was a 0 and 10. And then it was really weird. It was like right around Christmas, it got to 0, and then through the New Year's that week, it got warmer and warmer progressively warmer. And then now that I went back to work and the holidays are over, it's today, January 4th, it's got up to 60 degrees, and here it is. It's in the evening. It's still 59 or something. But then the temperature's going to drop. So it's a bizarre weather pattern in that respect, from hot to cold, from cold to hot. And then all this ice is gone. It's all gone. It's all muddy now. And that's not to say that we're getting some more rain, and if the temperatures drop, we'll get some more of these icicles again. And what causes this is when the water is high, you get the plate, and then as the water drops, it like draws out these icicles, and then maybe the water stays at that level for a while, and it drops slowly, and then maybe it drops faster again, then slowly again, and that's where you get these like weird fluted shapes and everything. This lens, well, any lens will do good, stop down. Not every lens. Some lenses will do bad. Some lenses, when you stop them down, they get worse. But this isn't the case. This is an excellent lens. Zoom Nikkor, 28 to 50 millimeter, f3.5 fixed aperture. It's really weird. I went to the park, and it's just like 3:30, 4 o'clock, and there wasn't really nobody around. I did see some people, but it wasn't like there was a crowd there. So I find the best time to go hiking is when it's really cold out, and you could get some solitude. I'm a sort of solitude person myself. And there's the stream there, and I always visit the stream. Sometimes if I just want to take a walk for a half hour, 45 minutes, it's not that far away from the parking lot. I mean, you park in a parking lot, and you 15-minute walk, you're in the deep woods, and then you can walk back. Of course, there are trails all over, and if you're so inclined and you feel more energetic, you could take a longer walk. But, at 3:30 in the afternoon in December, it gets dark really quick. So I watch the sun, and when it starts dipping below the far hills, that's when I skedaddle. And there may have been more people there earlier, but usually everyone sort of scoots once it gets like towards the late afternoon. And the temperatures drop. It could have been almost 30 degrees like 1 or 2 hours earlier, but temperature drops pretty quick as soon as the sun goes down. Ancient astronauts build these walls. Don't think that the people from the 1700s did this with their crummy technology they had. And it's a big lake, and the lake makes funny noises as the ice contracts. It makes funny booming noises. Following is going to be a video sample with this lens on the Nikon Z50.